In the 1940s, Toronto, where I spent my early years, was still very much a part of the British Commonwealth in culture and tradition. The descendants of the empire's riffraff seemed to cling to the standard of empire long after it had faded. It was the royals who claimed our deepest affections and the Union Jack that flew on our public occasions. I always thought my grandma was related to the House of Windsor, for she looked just like the Queen Mother. I could picture Grandma's benign head and waving hand poking out of the gilded, horse-drawn carriages that carried the royal family through the glossy pages of Maclean's magazine and the sumptuous descriptions of yet another royal wedding or coronation. As a child, my favorite pastime was poring over Grandma's wedding memorabilia. According to the Toronto Star, Grandma's wedding was one of the prettiest of the season, the bride handsomely gowned in direct toile satin, trimmed with pearls and lace. She wore a veil caught with orange blossoms and carried a large shower bouquet of lilies of the valley and white roses. At the far end of Grandma's parlor stood a brick fireplace whose mantel formed the backdrop for the official wedding pictures of the 4 Johnston girls taken at 2-year intervals. Each daughter is dressed in Grandma's own direct toile satin gown. By this time, its high neck had been cut off and the neckline scraped into a shallow scoop, in keeping with changing fashions. Although the faces changed, the photos are identical, down to the right arm through that of the new husbands, the bridesmaids in long taffeta gowns with matching hats and nosegays. I am in one of those wedding pictures, a beaming, round-faced flower girl of 8 with a shiny turned-up nose, blonde hair wound in tight Shirley Temple ringlets, holding a basket of daisies. It was my favorite Aunt Lois's wedding, the one who had made me see fairies and was able to make coins disappear and reappear in my ear. My Uncle Chas, her high school sweetheart, is next to her, a skinny, long-nosed, sallow-faced lad sprouting a large pompadour. I can still remember the thrill of being fitted for that pale green taffeta gown with a delicate lace inset in the bodice, and of receiving a real sterling silver bracelet as a present from the bride. With what awe-struck trepidation I marched down that long central aisle of High Park United Methodist Church, no longer banished from the grown-up service to some subterranean Sunday school room, but here marching at the center of this splendid royal wedding. This was going to be the wedding I would have when I was grown up. Like my mother and aunts before me, I would wear Grandma's gown and be surrounded with bridesmaids in identical taffeta dresses. But by the time my own wedding arrived, Grandma's gown was yellow and moth-eaten. My husband-to-be was so scared of marriage, having canceled a wedding years earlier and spent years in therapy trying to get over his guilt and fear of commitment, that he gave me 3 days to prepare, while he ran off to an island off the coast of Maine without a telephone, so he wouldn't be tempted to back out. I quickly called my childhood friend Patty to ask if she would be my bridesmaid, and rushed downtown to Lerner's to buy a white cocktail dress. 3 days later, my wedding pictures were taken by my stepfather with a Brownie camera and a weak flash. The minister, picked too quickly for the occasion, read that awful passage from Scripture about wives having to be obedient to their husbands. In the barely visible light of the East Harlem church, the men all look like mafia dons, and all you can see of me are my bright pink rabbit eyes. 52 years later, we're still together.